This is Health Unfiltered, the podcast where we cut through the bullshit and get honest about fitness, nutrition, and mental wellness.
This episode is brought to you by Thrive and Shine, your daily wellness journal, transforming stress into strength, one day at a time. Imagine trading just a few minutes every day for more calm, energy, and focus. Thrive and Shine makes it possible. Inside, you will find guided prompts for gratitude, daily intentions, movement, hydration, and sleep check-ins. Created by Joshua D. Noland, these very prompts helped him lose more than 80 pounds, overcome IBS, and reclaim his mood. Now they are ready to lead you toward your own daily victories, one page at a time. Thrive and Shine, your daily wellness journal, is now available on Amazon.com. Pause the podcast and head over to Amazon now to get your copy of the Thrive and Shine, your daily wellness journal. Now back to the show.
Torkil, welcome. What's good in your world today?
Thank you, Joshua. Well, what is good is that there's a lot of attention to what I'm talking about. So I've just been on national TV in a debate on sunscreen and sunlight exposure. So that's good. So intense, but it's good that there's interest in whatever I'm concerned about and want to tell people about. So, and sunlight exposure is so important. It's kind of, it's free, available for anyone.
Right.
It doesn't take much effort. You just go outside and receive the pure electromagnetic energy from the sun that will go into our cells and do its job, improve our mitochondria and the energy production. So it's the lowest hanging fruit, and it's been underused, and we've been scared away from it. And well, so that was part of the debate that I had. So that was a good thing.
Very
So
interesting.
in Norway, it's evening now or afternoon then. So
Yeah, I think you're about 9 hours ahead of me.
yeah, yeah.
So it might be hard to get a little sunlight right now, but tomorrow is another day.
Tomorrow's another day. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Very cool. Well, yeah, definitely like to hear more about your take on sunscreen use. But in this episode, we'll be focusing on the pulse cure and how reading your heart rate's data can add 2+ decades to your life. But
Mhm.
before we get into all that, I really want to learn more about you. Where'd you grow up, and like what kind of things do you like to do for fun?
Yeah, I'm grew up in close to Oslo, Norway, close to the capital. And yeah, been a doctor for 26 years, uh, working all over Norway. It's a beautiful country, and been working as a freelance doctor and an emergency physician. So Norway is very rural, very spread out. So they all need doctors 24/7. So yeah,
Yeah.
so that's what I've been doing, and for fun, I love to travel. So part of the reason why I became a doctor was the ability to travel, to the opportunity that I had to work intensively and then go traveling somewhere. And that I've done. Been sailing halfway around the world with my family, been visiting some 80 countries, and I've been doing a lot of photography. Uh, yeah, sailing. So that's what I do.
Awesome. Yeah, I love sailing. I used to do it when I was a little bit younger. I took a course over the summer, and me and my friend, we would go sailing in these small, um, I don't even know what you call them. They were like sun something, smaller boats, and we just kind of go around the harbor. It was a lot of fun. What kind of sailboats do
Hmm.
you go sailing in?
Oh, that would be a quite large catamaran, a 46-foot catamaran.
Oh, wow.
That so yeah, we sailed from Greece until French Polynesia.
Hmm.
We spent many. It was kind of an on and off project, so we would
Yeah,
sail 1 year, go back, and then sail 5 months, and so on.
nice. And was that you manning the boat yourself, you and your family?
Yeah,
Have a
yeah.
crew?
Me and the family, no crew. Yeah, we
Awesome.
were we were the crew. Yeah.
It's so amazing to harness the power of the wind and just get out there on the waves. It's so much fun. I really
Yeah,
really enjoyed
and
that.
live a natural life where you see the sun come up and go down and the
Yeah.
night sky and everything.
Oh man,
So I want to do more of that. So that's
very
on
cool.
the agenda. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What kind of photography do you like to do?
Mostly travel photography, maybe kind of documentary slash fine art photography.
Yeah. Yeah, I was reading that
People.
you've done documentaries. Are there any that stand out?
I made a couple of documentaries for Norwegian TV, or three documentaries. Two of them are about pilgrimages.
Mm.
They're particularly one in Spain, the
Mm-hmm.
Camino de Santiago, where you are walking for a month. And
Oh
the
wow.
same in Norway. There's a 1 month pilgrimage to a place in the central part of Norway. So I made that for the Norwegian broadcasting system, while, packing all the gear, walking all the way, interviewing
Wow.
people on the way, why are you walking? What you want to get out of it, and so on. And yeah, those were quite popular programs, so many people saw them.
Are those available
So
online?
um, not with the translation, unfortunately. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So I
What
should have it subtitled and get it. There are actually some 4 minutes, short trailers from it actually. So yeah,
cool. Was there any one of those interviews that like really stood out to you?
many of them. So for example, one guy, he had been the driver of an accident and his whole family perished, and he was walking with two stones with the first initial of two of them, and then he would repeat the same trip, as a, how do you say, to make up for the accident.
Yeah.
And many other people, they would be at crossroads in life,
Mhm.
finding out what you want to do with your life. So it's kind of an experience that you really should do if you've come to some point in your life where you lack a meaning, lack a purpose, and want to find out how to spend the rest of your life. Because once you go out on a long trip like that, and the only thing you do is walk and sleep and eat and talk to strangers, but often you just walk in solitude during the day, it's a very good position or good opportunity to, well, to find out who you are and what you want to do. So I often recommend that to people who would be at such a, crossroad in their lives.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds incredible. Like a rite of passage almost and a really good time to reflect on your
Yeah.
life and your purpose. Very cool. So you speak a couple of different languages. I think seven different languages.
7 different, yeah. So I've been
Wow.
traveling, of course, Spanish, Portuguese, French, Italian, Dutch, English, German. Yeah. Some of them you learn in school, of course, but once you go traveling and you come to countries that don't speak your language or even English, it's a lot easier to learn the language, I find.
Like that
So,
immersive kind of learning.
yeah, yeah,
Nice.
yeah, and you have to learn the language to get by or to get food or to
Hmm.
communicate with people. So,
It's incredible. Yeah, it's in America a lot of people don't speak multiple languages and
mm,
my wife and her family they speak Spanish and I've tried to learn in the past and it's really a goal of mine I think this year to learn Spanish so I can communicate with my in-laws a little bit better. It's definitely a goal of mine.
yeah, yeah, it's a good motivation. So I learned Dutch in that way because my girlfriend at the time was Dutch, and
Hmm.
her parents couldn't speak any English.
Yeah.
So it's okay. I decided to learn Dutch, and it's not so, if you know German and you know English and Norwegian, it's quite easy to learn it actually.
Yeah. They have like similarities.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Well, let's get into the topic. Do you want
Mhm.
to kind of explain what HRV is and why it might be better than monitoring your resting heart rate or maybe even your step count?
Yeah. HRV or heart rate variability is a biometric that will measure the state of your autonomic nervous system. And the autonomic nervous system is the basic part of your brain, the kind of reptile brain.
Mm,
It's an ancient system. It works more or less the same way now as it has done for 100 million years, which is why I call it the living fossil part of our brain. And it's really, really important to have a balance in this basic system. And the imbalance in the system is a lot of the reasons for the diseases that we are seeing these days with too much stress, too much environmental stress, too much mental stress, and too low capacity for people. We are not as physically fit as, you know, 200 years ago, obviously.
yeah.
And the autonomic nervous system can be tracked by the heart rate because when we are in the restful state, the recovery state, the parasympathetic state, when we breathe in, the heart rate goes up a little bit. And when we breathe out, the heart rate goes down a little bit to save
Hmm.
some energy while there is less oxygen in the lungs. But
Oh,
when we are in the stressful state, the heart rate will beat at a very steady pace, like a metronome or a clock.
yeah.
And because it's like our organism thinks that, okay, this organism is in danger. We need to use all available forces, even when there's less oxygen in the lungs on the out breath. So that is why the smartwatches and smart rings and so on can keep track of the heart rate and find out whether you are in the restful state or in the stressful state. And of course, as stress is one of the huge creators of disease, this is such an important insight into our physiology. So it's like having a dashboard to what goes on under the hood, so to speak, in your own body.
Right. So is having a higher HRV healthier?
Yeah, that is generally healthier
Hmm.
compared to yourself because there will be a lot of individual variations. So it's important to not compare with your wife or brothers or other
Yeah.
people, but to look at your own heart rate variability and try to get it higher to some extent. And in general, the higher the heart rate variability, the better your body and nervous system is working. It means that you have an ability to be flexible kind of in
Hmm.
the nervous system.
That's interesting. Yeah. Just intuitively, I would think that a lower heart rate variability would be better, but it's interesting that it's really an increased one. That gap in between the beats is what
Yeah.
you're measuring.
Yeah. A person that is too stressed for whatever reason will have a very steady heartbeat at
Mm,
all times. So it will be just like in your car when your car is running at too high RPMs,
yeah.
that
It's like
kind of
more
thinking.
more wear and tear on the body.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. And so you had your own health transformation, I think after your father died. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I became interested in this after my father died. He died at 73. And I just understood that, okay, I get nothing for free from my genetics. I could
Yeah.
see also from my other relatives, in the past, they would die well before they reached 80. So then I understood that, okay, I want to live longer and I need to find out how to do that. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, we didn't learn that in medical school. In medical school, we only learned how to categorize and treat disease. We did not learn how to create health, which is not the same thing.
Right.
So, although after you have been sick and have a diagnosis, you could still do the same things that could have kept you from it, in the first place. But creating health and finding out which lifestyle is best for staying healthy was not on the curriculum. So I had to learn all this by myself, or of course reading books and getting the information. And because I was doing everything wrong. I I was smoking, I was drinking alcohol more or less every day. I did not exercise. I did not care much about sleep or nutrition. I did not really have a way to wind down or to calm myself down. So I was in the stressful mode. I wish I had the smartwatches at the time. It would have been interesting to see.
Yeah. Some good
Um,
data.
yeah, that would give some interesting data. So, but after my father died, I understood that, okay, I need to lose weight. I weighed, 40 pounds more than I do today.
Hmm.
So I lost weight, started exercising, starting caring about sleep, and yeah, and changed my life around really. So I feel stronger. People say I look younger now than 12 years ago, and so it's working. And for the last more or less 6 years, I've been using the wearables to help me to get the physiology under control. Because the insight you get from these devices can help you, because whatever you do that is good for your system will be revealed in the heart in a better heart rate. So,
Yeah.
so you can identify energy thieves that you didn't really think of, because when you see the effect it has on your heart rate, you understand the load on your system, and then you stop, you know, exposing yourself to things that you can visually see is taxing your system.
Hmm.
So it becomes more motivating to stay away from the glass of alcohol or to do the cold plunge, and so on, and to be fasting. So when you don't eat, that's for most people that's calming your body down. And on the other way, eating, and particularly eating ultra processed food, will can stress your body also. And you can see it in the heart rate when you are eating something that your body really don't tolerate well.
Really? That's interesting. You can notice a change in your HRV with eating
Yeah,
different foods.
absolutely. So if I
Wow.
eat like a late night pizza, that, sometimes you're at a party, there's pizza, and then, for example, then it will be stressful, the whole night through.
Mm.
So then
Wow.
you know that, and I as in the beginning of my career, pizza was my go-to food. Just throw it into the oven and eat it, right?
Hmm.
Um, so of course, if I had those devices at the time, I could have identified it. Okay, this is really not good for your body,
Yeah.
and I didn't have any symptoms, at least that I can recall. Um, because it's not necessarily a good thing not having symptoms, because you could do something that damages your system without you knowing. While maybe
Hmm.
another person would feel stomach ache or bloating or some other symptom, and stop doing it. So
Right. Yeah. Maybe someone whose health is not as good, their body's not as resilient, they might feel it more in their gut versus someone who exercises and takes care of themselves might not really notice it as much. They can see it in the
yeah,
data.
yeah, right,
Wow.
yeah.
That's really cool. Are there any other gaps in your stress and recovery that you notice from wearing these trackables?
What did you mean by that?
Was there anything that you did like eating pizza that
Yeah,
you noticed had a negative effect on your
yeah,
HRV?
eating chili, that will be a horrible effect on the HRV. And
Like
I had
chili
never known that
beans?
before. Yeah, or pepperoni pizza,
Yeah.
so peppers, and jalapenos,
Oh,
and
like
that would
spicy foods
all
in general, or
spicy. Not necessarily because Indian curry food, which can
Mm.
be spicy, is not a problem.
Huh.
So it's just something about the chili, I think. So, and of course, I've been eating that all my life, in tacos and pizzas and so on. So
Oh yeah.
without really knowing it, and before I started tracking my heart rate, I would never even think about how I was feeling in the morning, that this would have anything to do with what I was eating 12 hours earlier. But
Right.
when you start tracking, you can see those connections, and then you
Mm.
can start, yeah, reducing the things that you see that is not good for you to some extent. There's no need to be, overly, occupied with it so that it would fill all your attention, but you just a little bit here and there. That is the most important thing, I think.
Yeah. So like with the chili peppers, do you think that's more of like a personal thing for your specific body? That's something your body
I
doesn't work
don't.
with, or that's more general?
It's a quite general thing, but the extent to how stressful it will be, that will depend. So I know a lot of people who react quite strongly to it. Others just react more mildly to it. So
Mm.
it's all individual. So what we find out also with these wearables is that we are highly individual also in our physiology. So
Yeah.
although most people will react to, for example, alcohol,
Right.
alcohol is the worst stressor of all, actually. And pe some people can tolerate it okay, but for most people, it's a really, really, really hard load on your system.
Yeah. Yeah. Personally, I've noticed that more and more the older I get. I was never really a big drinker, but when I was younger in my 20s, I drank socially. And now that I'm 40, I don't really drink at all, but when I do, I feel it the next day, and it's just
Yeah.
hard. It's hard to recover, and I can tell that it's having a tax on my body. But
Yeah.
that's
And
interesting about the chili peppers. I wonder what's the difference between the chili peppers versus like the curries that are, more stressful on the body.
yeah, I don't know. So so who knows? I think
Yeah.
most people when you start tracking your heart rate, you find out a lot of things that is not researched and is
Hmm.
not there's no information about it actually.
Yeah.
But I know that many people react to it. So and
Yeah,
particularly if I eat it late at night, if I eat it at lunch, it will just be stressful for the next hours. But if I eat it for
hmm.
dinner, it will also be stressful in the sleep and disturb my sleep.
Wow. And we know how important sleep is. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? I know you've got some
Yeah.
some tips for people.
Yeah, sleep is the first part in the pulse cure in my book because it's the most important step you need to take. And it's also a step that you don't really have to do anything. You just have to make sure that you're sleeping enough and allow your body to sleep.
Yeah.
So you need to have those 7 to 8 hours, for some people, even up to 9 hours
Hmm.
of sleep. And you need to have a restorative sleep that is restorative on your smartwatch, where you can see that you are actually going into the parasympathetic mode in the night. And that can be measured. Um, and to be able to do that, you need to wind down in the evening, maybe dim down the lights,
Hmm.
have a cool bedroom that is not too hot, and
Yeah.
you need your bedroom to be really dark, so dark that you can't see a hand in front of you.
That's
So that would be the
challenging.
most important thing, yeah, and to avoid alcohol and avoid food maybe 3 hours before you go to bed.
Hmm.
That would make for an optimal night. And then, of course, you would feel more refreshed in the morning. And this is why the pulse cure starts with this step, because when you then have more energy, then you can do the more difficult things like exercise or care about what kind of food you're eating and so on.
Yeah.
So, So the problem, if you don't sleep well enough, then when you wake up, you're already lagging behind, and it's harder
Hmm.
to do the things that take willpower to accomplish.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to say that mental health was the most important aspect of overall health, but more and more I'm realizing that sleep is a bigger factor because it contributes so much to the mental and physical health. And
Yeah,
it's
absolutely. If you don't sleep enough, you will not be able to have a good mental health, I think.
yeah, and getting quality sleep is really about not doing things, not being on your phone, late at night, not getting that blue light, in the evening hours.
Yeah.
Um, like you said, not having light in your room, having the temperature right. And, a lot of people think, okay, I'm going to go to bed at this time and they just stop what they're doing and go to bed. But it's really important to like wind down and
Yeah.
have like maybe that hour before you want to fall asleep to start getting ready for sleep. Something that I've
Yeah,
found,
and it's absolutely, and it's also important to go to sleep and wake up at more or less the same time every day.
yes.
And the reason for that is that then your brain and your physiology will be accustomed to that schedule and will be
Hmm.
more efficient in going into the right sleep phases.
It's definitely easier said than done. I try to tell my wife that, and she works a regular 9 to 5 job, and on the weekends she wants to stay up late and sleep in, the next day. And I'm like, I understand you get up early every day, but it's really, affecting your sleep if you're not sticking to that same time schedule every day. And I totally sympathize and understand, but it can be really challenging for some people.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah,
And
so you probably have a sleep deficit in the weekend. And so this kind of a social jet lag, as it's called, is also, important to at least minimize and be aware of,
mhm,
so that you can take it into account when you make the choices.
yeah,
And then it may
definitely.
be particularly important to not eat or have alcohol in those evenings so that your sleep is more efficient.
Right. And that's the time when people want to eat and drink and kind of, celebrate that it's the weekend. It's very counterproductive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, there's critics that say, constant tracking increases anxiety. How do people use the data as a supportive coach rather than like a critic?
Yeah, I think in the beginning it's you need to be get accustomed to it. So it's more or less like having a dashboard to your own physiology. So you
Hmm.
get the insight into what's going on under the hood. And that is quite weird in the beginning. So it could be an added stress for some time. But what you're seeing is just the reality of what is going on. So some people want that, and I've written the book for the ones who think that, wow, I can get a dashboard to what's going on in my body. I want that. That
Yeah.
is good. And for other people, they would say that I don't want that. That is too stressful. I don't
Hmm.
even need it. I feel good. I don't have any problem. I don't have any symptoms. I'm not stressed. Okay, fine. Then you don't need that. But most people actually think it's fun. So once they get this tool that can suddenly start a communication with your body that makes it possible for you to understand your body better, people think it's interesting, like a game where it's
Yeah.
your own life and health that is at stake.
Hmm.
So most people are, I'd say, probably 7 to 80% of the ones who are skeptical, like you're saying, end up being the biggest fans of doing it. And then a certain percentage just thinks, okay, it was as stressful as I feared, and I don't want to do it anymore. I
Yeah.
just sell the watch secondhand or whatever. So, but for most people, I think it's really fun, and particularly, okay, the Pulse Gear is the world's first guidebook on how to use the wearables compared to the different things, food and exercise and sleep and so on. So, of course, if you didn't have that guidebook, and you could only see that, oh wow, I'm super stressed, but I don't have the key to fix it. Okay, then
Yeah.
it will just add to the stress. But at
Right.
least in my book, you will learn how to get the stress down in a much more manageable way.
Hmm.
So, so then I don't think people would be too much stressed about it. It's just like in your car. You look up at the dashboard to check your speed, to check the fuel gauge, to check if the temperature of the engine is okay, to check maybe the outside temperature and so on. The different numbers that you need when you are driving the car to do it safely.
Right.
The distance to your target, when you will arrive and so on. So it's just the same kind of information to something much more important, which is your own health. So if you're not stressed in your car by watching the numbers, you should be able to take in those numbers yourself as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, people, I think they get stressed out because they're constantly checking, constantly looking, and maybe they don't have your book, they don't have the guide. And, if I
Mm.
was driving my car going somewhere and I was constantly checking the fuel and constantly looking at all the gauges, I would be stressed out.
Yeah,
But when I
yeah,
drive, I don't do that, and that really
yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. But maybe the first couple of months that you were driving, maybe you were doing that,
Yeah,
because it was all
definitely.
new to you and you were not accustomed to it. So it's a transitional phase, I think. I've actually myself now, I have no idea what I will see because my watch is dark, so I need to check it to see how much. Okay, so it's my body battery. The Garmin has a body battery system.
Oh.
And so it will tell you how much you have charged overnight
Hmm.
and make an estimate throughout the day on how much your body battery is going down. So now it's quite okay. It's on 27. So it's been a quite stressful day. I've had two podcasts and one TV appearance, and some other
Wow.
stress as well. So I'm quite okay. And the stress level in the moment is 35 on a scale from 0 to 100. So
Mm.
that is also the good thing about the Garmin watch is that you can push the button or just touch the screen and see how stressed am I in this moment. And that will give you, you know, then you will be able to, if you then see that, oh, I'm too stressed now. I'm in a meeting and I see that, oh, I'm too stressed. Then you can do like breath work to calm yourself down and you will see it as you do that. You will see the difference.
Wow. That's so
So that
powerful.
makes it, yeah, it makes it very actionable. And by the way, it's the Garmin watches that are by far the best option, although you would have many others. I think the Garmin watches are by far both the best and also the cheapest ones.
Very cool. Yeah, I wanted to ask
So
you
that's the
what specific trackables you recommend. I know there's like the Aura Ring and the Apple Watch and of course the Garmin. Are there any other ones that you'd recommend? Are the watches better than the rings or?
Mm. Yeah, yeah, the watches would be better than the rings. It's because it's not enough battery power or data power in the ring compared to a watch, I think.
Right.
And I could also recommend the Whoop band that I have on my right wrist, and they have a new version, the Whoop 5.0. So that may be even better than the one I had at the moment. So, and certainly any of the smartwatches will be so much better than nothing than your own guesswork. So,
Right. So
but
you're
I
you're
think you would get
doubling
a
down.
Garmin.
You're wearing
Yeah,
two
yeah,
trackables.
three. I have the Oura Ring too.
Oh man. Do
So
you
I'm
compare the
comparing.
data
Yeah,
between the three of them or?
yeah, yeah. So I compare the data, and so it's kind of my job to know how they're doing, the new innovations,
Yeah,
because they're improving all the time. So it's a
really.
very competitive market. And that is a very good thing that there is money involved in helping you stay healthy,
Yeah.
instead of all the money being on the other side of disease, treating the
Mm,
disease. So
yeah.
I think it's a very, very good thing. Both that It's helping you to stay healthy, and that is in your hands and not in the doctor's or healthcare system's hands. That's, I think, is very, very good and important.
And it's preventative versus
Yeah,
just trying to fix symptoms. That's so
yeah,
important. And it seems like you really know what you're talking about. You practice what you preach and you're testing out different devices. That's really cool. I love that. So
yeah,
why is tracking more valuable for women, given their hormone cycles and maybe hidden stresses?
yeah. Mm. For women, it's particularly important, and as you say, it's because of the hormonal cycle.
Mm,
And in particularly, it's the week before menstruation that is the biggest problem, the PMS period. So if you are too stressed, that there would be too much cortisol in your system, it will backfire on the sex hormones and it will disturb them. And
mm,
it would give you you would be able to see it in the heart rate variability. And I can see for that week, for the women with PMS symptoms, that the dip in heart rate variability is as strong as in a strong COVID infection. And
really?
then they have that for 1 week every month or every 4 weeks. So it's a huge load on the system. So it's not only a mood or a feeling, it's a physiological, visually, you can see it visually, what's happening, and you can do something about that. So when you start to see that week coming, when you then stay away from alcohol, make sure that you sleep better, you don't give in to the temptation of eating more chocolate and candy and crap food, then you would be able to flatten that curve and be relieved of a lot of the symptoms that you've had. So I think the happiest people that contact me, that would be women in the fertile age.
Yeah.
So it's super important because if they don't adjust, for example, if they're doing workouts for that week, they cannot push themselves as hard as they can in the other 3 weeks of their cycle. So yeah, I think particularly for women, this is important.
Hmm. Yeah, I definitely would agree with that. So we covered sleep and we kind of briefly mentioned exercise and very little bit about nutrition. But are there other levers that can improve health? And is there one in particular that can like move the needle the fastest?
Yeah, I would say getting fit is very important because at least the Garmin watch will give you a VO2 max. So you would be able to see if your VO2 max level, which is a fitness level, it's about how well your body and mitochondria can metabolize energy.
Hmm.
And the better the VO2 max, the healthier you will be. And in particularly, you don't want to be in the lowest quarter. So if you get a reading from your Garmin watch that says that you are in poor health, then you really should do something about it. And it could be quite hard because if you are in such a bad condition, then any exercise will be very stressful for your body. It will create a lot of inflammation. You will feel bad,
Hmm.
and just like if you have the flu or any infection, and you will be demotivated and maybe you will quit. So if you have a really poor fitness level, you would need to be very patient and just step by step improve the intensity and duration of your workouts. And you would get an answer after each workout on how much recovery time do you need after this particular workout.
Wow.
So there's so much information, from the watch. You have the heart rate, you have the temperature, you have the oxygen level, and you have the pattern of movement.
Hmm.
And if you have those different metrics, and then compared with algorithms from millions of people and artificial intelligence that can help interpret it, then you have such a power tool. an insight into how you should train, for example, optimally, even if you are not an athlete, and maybe in particular if you're not an athlete, or if you are in a burnout situation where that so many people are.
Yeah. So where would you recommend someone start if they were unhealthy and they wanted to make a change? Would you recommend them to start with their diet or exercise or sleep?
Start with sleep, and then maybe diet, maybe get away from the ultra processed food. Try to eat real food that our body
Yeah.
and the immune system recognizes as food and knows what to do with.
Mm-hmm.
And then also exercise. And maybe the best thing would be to do a little bit in each of those area, by the time. So
Right.
maybe it's better to do a little bit in like 5 different areas than a lot in one,
Right.
I think.
Yeah, I try to tell people you got to make very small changes over time, which will lead up to really big results. Because
Yeah,
otherwise you're gonna
then
stress yourself out and get burnt out.
yeah, absolutely. So then you get the compound effect that from those small changes over time, it
Yeah.
will compound to something really big.
Hmm. So for here in the States, I like to tell people when you go to the grocery store to if you want to eat real food, just stay on the perimeter of the grocery store. Don't go in the center aisles because that's where all the whole foods are, the meats, the vegetables, the fruits, all the good stuff. Is that how it is in Norway or this market set
Yeah.
up similar?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's
Yeah.
exactly the same way, and at least stay away from the stuff close to the counter, because because when you have worn out your willpower, in making all the different choices, and then
Right.
by the end of it, that's a chocolate,
You go
that's
to
the
check out and they
candy,
have
and
all the yeah.
yeah, because you don't have any willpower left to resist it.
Yeah.
So that's when you need to shut your eyes and just go through. Yeah.
And eat before you go grocery shopping. Don't go in there hungry because it makes it even
Yeah.
harder.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But when you see it on your heart rate monitor, and then it would be mostly Garmin that you would be able to identify it, then it
Hmm.
becomes easier to resist the temptation when you see the effect on your stress levels.
Yeah. Cool. Um, what are some things that you've learned about like meal timing or protein windows or maybe even intermittent fasting and their impacts on the HRV?
Yeah, I can see that fasting in many ways, you could do a fasting mimicking diet, for example. That would
Ah,
also be shown in your stress levels. That for most people, that's quite good. And probably that's why all religions, ancient religions, have fasting as a strategy for, finding wisdom and calmness,
mm-hmm.
concentration. So also intermittent fasting. I think most people find that if eating window of 6 to 8 hours is very good for your heart rate variability,
Yeah.
and and also for your weight.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's research showing that if you eat your food within the 6 hours window, you can eat the same amount, but you will not gain as much weight as if you were eating the same amount of food in the 12-hour window. So just keeping your feeding window shorter could
Mm-hmm.
be very efficient. And the most important is to have more time from the last meal until you go to bed. And usually 3 hours should be enough. And then you would see that on your Garmin watch.
Right. Yeah, that's an easy way to do intermittent fasting is just stop eating after dinner and then for breakfast, it's break fast. You're breaking your fast in the morning, giving your body time to clear out all that food that you ate and get your gut health back in order. And I think that's
Yeah.
great advice. So
Yeah, and
how
you
do
need to
these
follow your circadian rhythm. So
mm,
because your digestional system is not optimized to digest food after maybe 8 o'clock. So you're kind of
Yeah.
trying to wake up a system that really doesn't want to work.
Hmm.
So I think that's also important.
Yeah. So how do these wearables actually work? Like the watches, how are they tracking your heart rate variability and VO2 max and all these other factors?
They would be they have some light that shines on your blood vessels. So I can show you. You see that? I'm not sure. When I take it off, it stops shining. So it's a
Yeah.
green light that will shine down on your blood vessels, and then it will be able to read the heart rate. And there will be this things inside that will register the movement of pattern, whether you are
Mm.
walking or running,
Yeah.
and with the GPS, it will see how far you have been walking, at which heart rate, and then it will, find out this heart rate compared to this distance and this speed means a VO2 max of so and so. So it's a
Interesting.
calculation that they do from the
Yeah.
numbers.
Very
And
cool. So there's like a
I actually tried on the treadmill to check that if it was correct, and it was just half a point off. So
wow. Like you did the full treadmill test with the mask and
yeah,
everything.
yeah, and and
Incredible.
and that was only like 8 minutes, and I got a recovery time of 96 hours
Is that
because it's so intense. It's so much
yeah.
lactic acid. Yeah.
Wow.
While I could probably have been running for in a zone two with a low heart rate for maybe an hour and a half and have
Hmm.
less than 24 hours of recovery time.
Yeah. But that test is just so intense. It
Yeah.
gave you that extended recovery time.
Hmm.
Wow. So what's the deal with sunscreen? Is sunscreen good or bad or what do you think?
I think it depends. The most important, I think, with sunscreen or the sun is that you need sunlight. We're
Right.
kind of scared out of the sun, that is just
Hmm.
dangerous for us. But it has a lot of positive effects on
Yeah.
our cells. So whether we use sunscreen or not, I, I'm not sure if it's that important. I know that on high latitudes, like in Norway, there are research showing that when you use sunscreen to stay in the sun for a longer time, it will actually increase your chances of getting melanoma. So this is part of
Really?
what we were discussing on the TV debate.
Yeah.
Um, and that comes as a surprise to many people. And also, the research does not show that sunscreen will prevent melanoma, which is what a lot of people think.
Right.
At least, at least the research is not there um, to show it. So, and if you use sunscreen, maybe it's better with mineral-based sunscreens rather than chemical
Yeah.
sunscreens. But I think the very best thing, or what it seems to me, is to get a tan
Hmm.
gradually from the springtime until the summer that you have some solar callus.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's the most important because melanin, which is the molecule that makes you darker in the sun, is
Right.
both protecting your cells mechanically, is also an antioxidant and immune regulator,
Hmm.
and it's like a 500 million year old molecule, and
Yeah.
it's doing its job better than sunscreen does in my mind.
Hmm.
So I see no reason that we have constructed a cream that can do a better job at protecting our system than nature has done for like 500 million years. I don't buy into that.
Definitely.
So, but I would use sunscreen if I'm sailing and I know that uh, I will get a sunburn if I stay out sailing in this middle of the day. Okay, I don't want to get a sunburn, mostly for the inconvenience, but okay, then I put on the sunscreen. I don't mind.
You would opt for the mineral base versus the chemical.
Now I would,
Yeah.
because since I'm writing a book on the subject, I've been, well, educating myself and actually bought a mineral sunscreen yesterday, so I'll check it
Hmm.
out.
Nice. Yeah, I make sure to get sun, when I go for my walks with the dogs. Particularly in the morning, I like to take my shirt off, get that sun exposure, and then maybe
Yeah,
later in the day when the sun's a little higher, more intense, I'll wear a hat or just some more clothing to cover up my skin to protect it. But I
yeah,
think people don't realize how important that sun exposure is, for circadian rhythm and for,
yeah,
vitamin D synthesis. It's
yeah,
people have been scared and just lather on this chemical sunscreen, which can be more problematic than helpful, I
yeah,
believe.
yeah, 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 I think so too.
Cool. So, do you like to cold plunge?
Yes, actually I do. At least I like it, the cold plunge with the sauna. I don't do it
Yeah.
as much just the cold plunge. I have done it, but going from the sauna and into the cold water, and of course here in Norway it gets really cold in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
It's right, kind of intense, great
Right.
experience. Makes you feel alive, but it's also very good for your circulatory system.
Mm-hmm.
So and temperature regulation. So of course, now that we live inside in a room temperature round the clock, it's not making our temperature regulation very flexible. So I think
Right.
it's a very good way to improve the temperature regulation in your body and that it's healthy for you. At least it
Definitely.
feels better when I do it. And it's fun and it's something to do with friends. So it's also a social thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're going in like natural bodies of water
Yeah,
when you're doing
out
that?
into the seawater. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, here in Southern California, we don't have too much cold bodies of water. But I do enjoy cold plunging. I mean, I don't enjoy cold plunging. I enjoy getting out
Yeah, yeah,
and
right.
that
Yeah.
feeling, that exhilarating feeling as you mentioned, and just knowing all the health benefits that it adds. And
Yeah,
I
and you
also
would
enjoy.
also, and with the Garmin watch, you would also be able to see that your body shifts into the parasympathetic mode for quite some time afterwards. It could be
Hmm.
like 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah.
So part of what you sense as beneficial is also
Hmm.
visible in the heart rate.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I do enjoy going in the sauna, but I usually don't pair them together. I like to go in the cold plunge in the morning before my workout and kind of let my body, reheat naturally. And then I really utilize the sauna a lot at night for recovery, for muscle recovery and circulation. And I find that it really helps me relax and get a good night's sleep.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's pretty fun to utilize those different modalities to
Hmm.
improve your health. And I'm really interested in getting a wearable now to track all this stuff and actually have some
Yeah.
data to show people.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
you've
Yeah.
convinced me.
For me, it's really fun to see and to be able to see the effect of the sauna or the cold plunge or the food and of course if one person think it's just a hassle you could use it for like 3 months or a half a year and then just sell it pass it on
Yeah.
so I think it's a very very useful thing to do.
Hmm. Very cool. So is there one question that you wish people would ask you more?
No, nothing comes to mind really. No.
Maybe where to get your book?
Yeah, where to get my book? I should get asked that a lot more, you know. Oh,
So where
yeah,
can people
the
find
book,
it?
yeah, people can find the book on Amazon or other outlets. So
Hmm.
it's both paperback and an ebook, and also an audiobook.
Oh, did you
So
narrate it
so
yourself?
no, No.
Okay.
It's a British accent from some English person there. Because many podcast listeners, they would rather listen to the book.
Mm, yeah.
I think it's a 7 hour book, so somewhere around that. But in those 7 hours, you will know more about preventative medicine than most doctors know. I'm sure.
Yeah.
At least you will know more than 90% of the doctors.
Hmm.
So it's a
Yeah.
quite compressed and easy to read or easy to listen to book.
Mhm. Yeah, I definitely want to check it out. It's very, very fascinating, everything you've shared today. Was there anything else you wanted to touch on before we start wrapping it up?
I think we've been covering most of the things that I talk about. No, I don't think that there's
Okay,
much
yeah, we
more.
talked
No, no.
about sunscreen, cold plunging,
Yeah, and the sun also,
fasting.
you can also talk about the sun because what got me interested in the first place is to see in the sunlight in the summer, the heart rate variability is better, at least
Really?
in the northern parts.
Yeah.
And when the people from the very north of Norway, they often go to southern Spain or the Canary Islands in the
Mm,
winter time, and then there's a huge difference in their heart rate variability. So that kind of got me intrigued in the first place. What is this? Why does the body respond in such a way to sun exposure?
right.
So, but it seems to be the efficiency of the mitochondria and
Mm,
also the release of nitric oxide from the skin that will improve the circulatory system. So,
and you're getting that from the sun?
yeah.
Wow. Very cool. All
So
right. And how,
we are solar panels, right?
right.
Yeah.
Very cool. How can listeners get in touch with you?
They could go on Instagram.
Hmm.
So I have doc underscore Torkil. That is my English speaking one, which is quite new. And then I have dr.torkil, but there's a lot of Norwegians there. So
Yeah,
that would be the biggest one. But I'm trying to build up an English speaking Instagram. So
definitely. Yeah, your English is great. And I've really, really enjoyed talking to you today. I like to wrap up the show with a game that I like to call the final dose. And
okay,
the way it
cool.
works is that you pick a number 1 through 10, and that number correlates with a phrase, and then you share a story or a story about someone you know that relates to that word. So does that sound good?
Cool. Sounds cool. Yeah.
All right.
Challenging. Yeah.
So
Let's hear
what's
it.
pick a number 1 through 10.
Let's take 7.
7. 7 is rebel move. So was there like a time where you broke the rules, and maybe why did that matter?
Broke the rules. Hmm.
Maybe as
I
a
think maybe what I did in between pre-med school and med school, not necessarily breaking the rules, but I was taking a year off to go travel in South America and Africa,
hmm,
which not many of the students did. So, but it was maybe the most useful year of my life, but it wasn't maybe not a rebel move, but it was a different move, and yeah, I learned a lot from that year, including speaking 2 new languages and
mm-hmm.
traveling all by myself for such a long time.
Very, very brave traveling alone. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, in the jungles and in war-torn places in Africa. So I'm glad I was young. It was. I'm not sure if I would have dared to do it today, but
Right. Very cool. Yeah, I think traveling, seeing different cultures, experiencing different foods, all that is so important for people to get a perspective on the world.
yeah.
So awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. I know it's getting late there. And I really appreciate you helping me cut through the bullshit today.
Yeah, thank you. It was a great conversation, and thank you for having me on your show. Thank you.
You bet. All right. Bye, everybody. Hey, you're still here. Thank you for sticking around to the very end. I hope today's conversation gave you at least one actionable nugget that you can weave into your life for a real boost in health and happiness. If someone you care about could benefit from what we've covered, please share this episode with them. Word of mouth is the best way to spread good info and keep the show growing. And hey, if you've got a story to tell or expertise to share, I'd love to hear from you. Just head over to joshnolan.com, click the podcast tab in the top right corner, and look for the Health Unfiltered guest application. From the bottom of my heart, thanks for being a part of this community. Your curiosity and support makes these conversations possible, and I'm genuinely grateful. Until next time, stay curious, stay healthy, and keep showing up for yourself.